Channel. Barber led services on a number of the ships, and he used the words of the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me lie down in green pastures, he leadeth me beside still waters. He restoreth my soul. And so the psalm goes on. But we read that these words were used to comfort the anxious troops as they prepared to set off. On D-Day, Barber joined the men onto Omaha Beach. And amongst those who were killed were some of those small Bibles that he had handed out during those services. As Barber supported the men in the water, many who died in his arms, he read from John's Gospel these words: "Let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me." Adventure. An exciting, unusual, and sometimes risky experience or undertaking. It often involves stepping outside one's comfort zone into the unknown. Every member of that Allied force who left the shores of England for these beaches stepped into the great adventure. There were many who survived the beaches and played their part in liberating France and beyond. For others, their adventure ended with the ultimate sacrifice of their life in the water, on the beaches, and on the land beyond. Each name carved on the walls and columns of this memorial, and the names we added yesterday, would tell a slightly different story of their unique part in that great adventure. And so gathering here today, we reflect on their sacrifice, and we give thanks that 82 years on, history has not, and hopefully never will, allow us to forget their bravery, their resilience, their moral courage, and the step they took into the adventure of the unknown for a great and righteous cause. Amen. If you're able to, would I ask you to please stand as we sing together our next hymn, "Who Would True Valour See?"
Come Ongoing coverage of the D-Day service of remembrance for the 82nd anniversary of D-Day. This service led by the Reverend Dr. Jonathan Knight, who is the honorary chaplain of this British Normandy Memorial. Built in 2021, updated this year with the addition of 98 new names. And we're hearing now from the British Army Band from Tidworth, led by the Band Sergeant Major, Warrant Officer Second Class Dominic Campbell, and the Bandmaster, Staff Sergeant Andrew Hall. And you have been listening to the Portsmouth Cathedral Choir. We now listen to the Nelson Address.
May the great God, whom I worship, grant to my country, and for the benefit of Europe in general, a great and glorious victory. May no misconduct in anyone tarnish it, and may humanity after victory be the predominant feature in the British fleet. For myself individually, I commit my life to him that made me, and may his blessing alight on my endeavours for serving my country faithfully. To him I resign myself and the just cause which has entrusted me to defend. Amen, amen, amen.
The name George Batts will be familiar to very many of you. He was the veteran who campaigned for this memorial to be built. His determination was rooted in what he witnessed on Gold Beach on D-Day. He landed on the beach at about 10:30 that morning, an 18-year-old sapper in the Royal Engineers. His task was to clear mines and booby traps. These are his words. No one who landed will ever forget it. As we approached the coast, the noise was phenomenal. You've got every type of gun going off, and there was like a mist over the whole of the beach. And that ramp goes down, and you just run. Training took over, and you just went. You lost all sense of adventure. Whereas you'd thought about going, suddenly you were. And you think, oh my God, I could be killed. We've got to fight. You see your friends going down, bodies go down, but you're not able to help because you just had to keep going. I suppose I lost about 4 or 5 of my mates. They were just hit by whatever. One thing I've never ever talked about and will not talk about is the state of the beaches. Everyone knows what happens in war. Everyone's got an imagination and knows what happened on those beaches. We lost a lot of men. On each of those beaches, the British beaches, there were about 1,000 killed on D-Day. That's a hell of a lot of people to be killed in between 12 and 24 hours.
And so, on this 82nd anniversary of D-Day, we come to the solemn act of remembrance. Let us remember with thanksgiving and honour before Almighty God all those who served in the Normandy campaign, and who died in the cause of freedom and in the service of their sovereign and their country.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember. We will remember. When you go home, tell them of us and say, for your tomorrow, we gave out today.
Well, a moving moment of silence there after the last post here at the British Normandy Memorial Service, where we have heard from Ken Hay, a surviving veteran of the Battle for Normandy. We have also heard from the great-great-grandson of Winston Churchill, Alexander Churchill, who read the prayer said by Admiral Horatio Nelson on the eve of the Battle of Trafalgar. We also heard from a relative of Field Marshal Montgomery, who gave an address, and we'll speak to him later here on GB News as we continue our coverage of this commemorative occasion. This has, of course, been a service filled with the traditional prayers associated with the British procession of remembrance. But above this memorial, there is a particular reference that is only here. It is the stirring address delivered by General Bernard Montgomery to the Allied troops on the eve of that Normandy invasion. To us is given the honour of striking a blow for freedom which will live in history. And in the better days that lie ahead, men will speak with pride of our doings. And that is certainly what is happening here today and has been happening in Normandy over the last few days, as people continue to gather and speak of what those men did, and they speak of it with pride, be they British, American, French, Canadian, Belgian, and many other nationalities who have come to these sites in Normandy and throughout France to commemorate the actions of those some 160,000 Allied personnel who landed on the beaches. We are just moments from Gold Beach here at this memorial, but of course there were 4 others in American, Canadian and British sectors. The fighting on Gold Beach was so severe, and you've heard the reference during a very precious service when we heard in the memory of George Batts, a D-Day veteran who passed in 2022, who said he would never speak of what he saw on those beaches. And as the wreath laying continues here, many families of veterans will be thinking back on the memories that they heard from their own George Batts, one of the many thousands, tens of thousands of Britons who made that daring, gritty, unbearable decision to jump from the landing craft and wade through the channel and stride up onto these beaches and storm those German positions. And of course, today being the 6th of June, we focus on the amphibious assaults, but along with the maritime warriors, there are also those who jump from the air and by doing so conquered fear, in the words of Bernard Montgomery. The glider pilots who landed to secure the bridges crossing the Caen Canal and the Orne River, and the men also of the American 82nd and 101st Airborne, who fought alongside those of the British 6th Airborne Division, with its Polish subsidiaries as well. And while the British and the American and the Canadians made the bulk of those Allied landings on the beaches, there was also with them 177 French soldiers, Kiefer's commandos, led by Captain Kiefer, who were returning to liberate their country, to help return to a free France that had been whisked away by the German Blitzkrieg in 1940, with acts of resistance continuing under the domination of Nazi rule. In a ceremonial manner, Captain Kiefer was said to have stormed that beach with a French traditional officer's sabre. He is honoured in Les Invalides Memorial and Museum in Paris, a hero of the French who fought alongside tens of thousands of heroes from British, American and Canadian forces who made a very brave decision to cross the Channel that morning.
And so we turn to our prayers. Please will you sit? This wonderful memorial commemorates all those in British and Allied units who gave their lives for the cause of freedom in the Battle of Normandy. Let us remember all who have gone before us to the presence of God, those whom we love but see no longer, whom we call to mind today with gratitude. We pray that in them God's purpose may be fulfilled. We give thanks that He calls all of us to the hope of resurrection when we shall be reunited. We pray for those who serve in the armed forces today. Jesus taught us that blessed are the peacemakers. We know that peacekeeping is not an easy process. We pray for the spirit of humanity and tolerance among all those who wear the uniform of the Crown. We stand with them in the hope that the preaching of the gospel of peace may influence all of humankind. We pray also for those who have been harmed through warfare. We think especially of those who have lost partners and of children who have lost a parent. We pledge ourselves to support the victims of war. We commend those who continue to suffer to God's enduring care. And we pray too for those whom once, so very sadly, we called our enemies, but whom now we rejoice to call our friends. We thank God for breaking down that dividing wall of hostility and restoring us all to a common humanity. We walk side by side with all peacemakers to work for a better future globally. Amen. And the Normandy prayer, originally the prayer of the Normandy Veterans Association, but now it's our prayer too, all of our prayer. O eternal Lord God, who has united together all the veterans of the Normandy campaign, grant to us, we beseech you, your blessing, and give us strength to carry on this work of remembrance and reconciliation, to work for peace and common purpose among the nations. We ask this in the name of Jesus Christ, whose courage, like that of our D-Day veterans, never failed. Amen. As we prepare to say together the Lord's Prayer, please will you stand? In our own mother tongue, let us pray together in the words that Christ himself gave us. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. So may God grant to the living grace, to the departed rest, the Church, the King, the Commonwealth, and all humankind, peace and concord, and to us and all his servants, life everlasting. And the blessing of God Almighty, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit remain with you, and especially with our beloved Normandy veterans, some so wonderfully here today, but many now in eternity. Amen.
Well, you have been watching and listening to the 82nd D-Day commemorations taking place in Normandy today. This is Saturday Morning Live with Sam Francis and me, Olivia Utley.
Well, for the veterans that have made it back there today, this is not just a history, this is a real and a raw memory. But today, the place that they are gathering full of silence and gratitude and deep reflection. Our national reporter, Charlie Peters, has been there for us throughout this morning as these reflections and commemorations continue.
Well, good morning to you both. Yes, we now are hearing from the band of the British Army and the pipes. After we've had the choir from Portsmouth Cathedral, we now begin a wreath-laying ceremony. We are expecting to see the General, Lord Dannatt, a regular on GB News, of course, alongside the British Ambassador to France, Sir Thomas Drew, who will be with the Secretary of State for Defence, John Healey. They will lay wreaths at the D-Day wall on behalf of the United Kingdom, and the senior French representative will lay a wreath on behalf of the Republic of France. And of course, we have just heard the two national anthems for those two nations here, and that has reflected the spirit that has been seen throughout Normandy over the last 3 days, preparing for these commemorative activities. An extraordinary sense of Anglo-French alliance and, frankly, brotherhood that has been displayed among veterans of that period, but also from so many of the people who were children during that time. Many people we've spoken to throughout Normandy over the last few days have come up to us saying, I was young when this happened, and I want to come and say thank you to those who are left. Those you're seeing on your screens right now, the veterans who have returned. Just a handful who are still with us, but the applause rippling out throughout this crowd now as the crowd here pays their own version of respects to those men, including Ken Hay, who spoke to us earlier, saying that he feels lucky, of course, that he is still here, and it is his duty to return here every year and speak. And there is Ken on your screen now. Return every year to speak to the people here, to thank them, of course, for attending, but also to commemorate his friends, his brothers in arms, who fell not only on the beaches, but also in the battle for Normandy that raged on for many months. And there are some, of course, 22,000 names here, but there are now another 98 that have been added. And as we expect that wreath-laying ceremony to continue, we will be learning more about those names on the memorial that have been added. The 98, the addenda, a couple of them we've spoken about already. Charles Coyle, a member of the Royal Navy who served on ships from Glasgow, and also we heard about Richard Barclay, an American lieutenant who flew on a Spitfire, flew for the Royal Air Force. He fell on D-Day as well. Those names and tens of thousands of others will continue to be remembered here at the D-Day Memorial.
Charlie, thank you very much indeed. A poignant service there this morning, and we'll be back with you throughout the rest of the day too as those commemorations continue. I think it is always quite striking just how calm, peaceful those beaches look now. But 82 years ago, you can't really wrap your head around the scale of the operation that would have taken place.
Absolutely, and it is incredible, really, isn't it, to see those last remaining veterans standing there looking so dignified, so graceful. This is something which is slipping out of living memory. I think there are only 2 veterans alive there at the commemorations today. In a few years, there might not be any veterans left, so it is more important than ever that these commemorations continue to keep that in our minds as it slips out of living memory. We will be back to Charlie throughout the programme in Normandy. But in other news today, the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, has blamed Henry Novak's death on the mass invasion of migrants. He made the comments in an X post.
Well, Downing Street has since reacted, hitting out at people trying to interfere, they say, in our democracy and seeking to stir up division.
Well, we're joined by former editor of the Sunday Express, David Wooding. David, the relationship between Donald Trump and Keir Starmer has looked a little bit rocky for a while now, but this almost unprecedented intervention from J.D. Vance is obviously only going to make matters worse. Can we really say that the special relationship between Britain and the US is as strong as ever, as the Prime Minister's spokesman claimed yesterday?
Some time. It's not unusual for the United States to criticise or refer to murders in other countries in order to justify its own migration or policies, its crackdown on immigration. But what we've got here is something a little bit quite extraordinary in that he's accusing Britain of contributing towards the decline of society, the decline of civilization, which is quite a severe blow. I wonder, in fact, whether it's all a little bit of a tit for tat over George Floyd, because if you remember, Keir Starmer, when he was leader of the opposition, made a big song and dance about taking the knee and criticising the United States police over the arrest of this man, who, of course, like Henry Novak, was complaining that he couldn't breathe. So I wonder whether there's a bit of tit for tat in this one, in that they're having a little criticism of Britain to say that you're not beyond reproach either.
Well, thank you very much, David Wooding. I'm afraid that's all we've got time for now, but we will be coming back to this story more fully later on. Well, in relation to J.D. Vance's statement on Henry Novak, a Downing Street spokesperson said, in recent days, we have seen people trying to interfere in our democracy and seeking to stir up division on our streets.
The Novak family are grieving after Henry's horrific murder. They have said they do not want his death to be used to create further division, hatred or tension, adding we should be respecting their wishes.
It continues, our politics should bring people together, even in the most terrible of circumstances. That is who we are as a country.
Well, still to come, we'll be back live in Normandy with Charlie Peters commemorating the 82 years since D-Day.
But next, there's a new claim that the Bank of England removed Winston Churchill from banknotes because they were told he symbolised elitism. Guess which other historical British figures were labelled as divisive?
Well, Jonathan, Liz and Candice Holdsworth will have that and more with the papers next. This is Saturday Morning Live on GB News.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howard. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK. Oh, thank you.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace to Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter? So that's a very live question. Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Welcome back to Saturday Morning Live. Now, to look through the top stories of today, we're delighted to be joined by political commentator Jonathan Liz and journalist Candice Holdsworth. I'm going to start with you, Candice. Fascinating story we were just trailing there.
Yes.
Bank axed Churchill for being too elitist. The Bank of England taking Churchill off banknotes. Is that really what's been going on?
This story is so bizarre. So there was a furore about it early in the year that they were going to be taking Churchill off the notes, Jane Austen, and everyone was saying, why? Is it because there's this sort of backlash against historical figures, that they represent colonialism or they're elitist? And people in the Bank of England denied it, and they said, no, it's not the case. But actually, it's been revealed that they did do some research, and in some of these focus groups, people said exactly that. So they've now gone with like the blandest idea possible, like putting on animals or something. And people are rightly angry because I think I know it's only banknotes, but if you're going to do something that's representative of Britain, it seems like these are the people that you would choose, like Churchill, Alan Turing, Jane Austen. I mean, these are the people who've contributed so much to the world and all the things that Britain's known for, which is not really our wildlife and not really our nature. We're known for our art, our science, our literature.
I think the animals that are being chosen as well, the 18 animals that have been put forward, some of them aren't even native to the UK. It seems like a very, very bizarre choice. But I was listening to a programme on the channel earlier. One of the panellists said that all politicians are elitist and should be removed. Is there anybody, any public figure that would qualify to be allowed to be on a banknote?
I don't think that politicians in general should be on banknotes, as the Americans are finally realising now. Well, they have realised it for a long time, but Donald Trump wants to go on a new American banknote to celebrate their 250th anniversary. I don't think that politicians should be... Churchill's obviously an exception because of his unique status, but in general, politicians don't go on there. It's actually, people don't realise that the monarch's only been on the banknotes in this country since, I think, the 1960s. 1860s. The Queen was the first monarch ever to appear on a banknote in Britain. So it doesn't have such a long history. And then you had Shakespeare on the notes for a long time, and I think Florence Nightingale, Charles Darwin, etc. So, you know, these are the figures, and I see no problem with that at all. And, you know, if you were worried about elitism, then you could just have a different range of figures. But I think that if you are going to change that, it should be something a lot more distinctively British. I really liked the old pound coins where you had different bridges, for example, from different parts of the UK, different sort of monuments. You have so many beautiful buildings in this country. I don't see why they couldn't be on banknotes. As you go to other countries, they have sort of buildings and monuments on their banknotes rather than things like fauna, which are often quite... You know, obviously, if you're someone like New Zealand or Australia, there are lots of individual animals that are unique to those places. But in Britain, that's a lot harder to find.
Slugs and snails probably comes to mind. I'm not sure I want that on a banknote. But rats in London, certainly, yeah.
I mean, obviously, I think we can all agree with Jonathan that we don't really want Keir Starmer or Sunak on our banknotes. But Winston Churchill is a very different figure, as we've just been seeing on the 82nd commemorations of D-Day, which have been taking place today. It sometimes feels as though, you know, it doesn't matter that much who's on our banknotes, perhaps. But is there a sort of sense that that's kind of a dumbing down in Britain? For fear of coming across as contentious in any way or fear of offending anyone at all, we're replacing our most important historical figures with animals. Is it a bit of a sign of something bigger?
Yes, I mean, it's this shame that some people feel, and I do believe it's a minority. I don't know who they spoke to in those focus groups, but I think most people, when they think of Winston Churchill, feel incredible pride. I mean, whenever I go to Westminster and I see the statue of Churchill, I feel moved by it. I've never not felt moved by it. I think it's also because he's leaning on his stick as well. He was quite a frail man, but he had so much strength and so much resilience, and that speaks to us. That's powerful. That speaks to a deep sense of who we are, the turning points in history that have shaped us, whereas an animal, that doesn't resonate with anyone at all. And also, can I just say, I know it's only banknotes, I said that now, but I think our currency, our pound, that also has cultural resonance as well, because do you remember years ago when they wanted to replace the pound with the euro, there was actually real resistance to that. People did not want to do that.
Yeah, but then what they did, and I was a bit of a coin collector when I was a kid, and I found it really upsetting. I know people think I'm this like woke person who hates our history, etc. But what they did about 15 years ago was they got rid of designs that had been on the currency for hundreds of years in some cases and completely changed them. So we had like a graphic design solution for all our coins where you had to assemble them in order to make the coat of arms. Whereas before, for example, around the pound coin, you had the sign Decus et tu tamen, an ornament and a safeguard, which had been on coins since the time of Charles II. So they got rid of that, and that was very upsetting. And you had sort of the 50p coin, that was Britannia. They got rid of that as well. I think that was a real shame because those are symbols that are national symbols and that people feel pride in, and now it's just generic money. I thought that was a shame.
There's a coin expert, I would have heard.
Just gets cooler and cooler every day. Every show you come on, a new fact and figure comes out.
You know, there are like. I think there's nothing wrong with celebrating your traditions. Just because I think that Britain is a diverse nation, and I'm really proud of that. But at the same time, I don't want to scrap things that have been in our country for hundreds of years. That's why I support the monarchy, for example.
Candice, very, very quickly, because we don't have very long at all, but really fascinating story here in the Mirror. 1 in 4 babies are now born by emergency C-section. What is going on here? Is it that, you know, mothers are getting older, as we keep hearing? Is it that women are being forced into inductions, which often don't work, and have to end up having a C-section? This obviously isn't good generally for women's health. A C-section is a major procedure.
Yeah, so this is really fascinating, this story in the Mirror. Actually, what they believe is driving it is actually fear. So women are actually requesting C-sections because they're very scared of giving birth naturally. And a lot of this is to do with failings in maternity care across the board. I mean, there have been just so many horror stories now. There have been numerous inquiries into just how bad maternity care is in certain parts of the country. And women are now feeling, actually, I want full control over the process. I want it to be done surgically. I don't want any risks. And I think, can you believe it, in 21st century Britain, in one of the most advanced countries in the world, women are scared of giving birth. That's crazy.
I mean, part of that is also the dire record of NHS maternity, and you have so many horror stories of women. Obviously, I proudly support the NHS, obviously, but there are real problems in maternity care that a lot of women have spoken about, and so people might be justified in fearing that.
Absolutely.
But the thing that I don't really understand about this is emergency C-sections, because I can understand that elective C-sections were going up because women were scared of that, but an emergency suggests that it's a doctor's choice to do it, and I'm not entirely sure why that would be happening, because I don't think that C-sections are cheaper, for example, or easier for doctors than delivering a baby vaginally. So it doesn't really make sense if it's not some sort of cynical attempt to sort of save the NHS money or anything like that.
Well, just as a mother who knows lots of other mothers, anecdotally it seems to be because women are being pushed into having inductions because they're going over dates or something like that, and those inductions often don't work and end up with an emergency C-section. So I think there is a bit of an ideology thing going on in the NHS, but we'll have to find out more. I suppose this is a developing story, but as you say, the maternity services are in crisis.
More from maternity expert Jonathan Liz later.
I'm coin expert.
Has to be said. Both of you, thank you very much. Well, still to come, Charlie Peters will be back with us in Normandy this morning, commemorating 82 years since D-Day.
But next, Sadiq Khan backs tougher social media restrictions for children, but do bans protect young people or actually stop them learning how to use tech responsibly?
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. An unseasonably windy day to come for southern areas, heavy rain and thunderstorms as well this afternoon, but it should turn a little bit drier from the west this evening. But for the time being, this area of low pressure brings some very strong winds to parts of southwest England and the south coast later on this afternoon. And heavy rain will push north and eastwards through this afternoon to bring many of us a pretty unsettled and damp day. There's a risk of thundery downpours as well across more northwestern areas, parts of Northern Ireland, northwest England into this afternoon. Temperatures will be a little bit below average, very close to where they have been already this week. Into this evening, it does turn drier from the west, so some brighter skies to come across more western areas, but across the north remaining quite cloudy. Temperatures around 12 to 13 degrees, so a bit disappointing for the time of year. There will be some brighter spells between showers, but again, there's that risk of thundery downpours as we head into parts of northwest England, so do take care if you're travelling out and about. There may be some water on the roads. Quite a lot of clouds still lingering around this area of low pressure, but there will be some brighter skies across the southwest just for a time. We've got a ridge of high pressure between systems, so a brief lull in the wet and windy weather to come tonight, but still quite a lot of cloud pushing in from the west through the early hours of Sunday. So I think clearer skies for more eastern areas by Sunday morning, cloudier and a little bit wetter in the west, some light drizzle, but it's going to be a pretty mild night, a mild start to Sunday with southwesterly winds. The winds strengthen again around the next area of low pressure, this time up to the north and west. That sweeps in, bringing heavy bursts of rain to parts of Northern Ireland and western Scotland through Sunday. But across more eastern areas of England, eastern Scotland, it should be a much drier and perhaps a bit of a sunnier day as well. So temperatures will climb into the 20s for the first time in a little while. So feeling a little bit more pleasant with calmer winds in the east.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain,
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in, the late edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages. Because the news is going to happen. So get a head start today. Patrick Christie's tonight, late edition. Alex Armstrong tonight, late edition. From 11 o'clock every night. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Very good morning, welcome back. It's just gone 10:38. You're with Saturday Morning Live. Now, Sadiq Khan is one of the latest to back the social media ban for under 16s. The Mayor of London is urging social media firms to prove that their platforms are safe to use.
Well, despite being in favour of the restrictions, Sadiq Khan did say that the ban alone will not fix all issues. This morning, we're asking, does the smartphone ban prevent kids from using tech responsibly? And for that debate, we're joined by tech journalist Will Guyot and lifestyle journalist and parenting expert Annette Kello. I have to say, I find this a bit of a strange argument. We don't say that children should be given a glass of wine every evening to teach them how to drink responsibly when they turn 18. If we believe that tech is dangerous, surely it's our responsibility to protect children from it. Will, I'm going to start with you.
Well, I agree that there is an issue with social media and its influence on young people, but I don't necessarily believe that a ban is the best way forward. If you ban social media, where else do children go online? Does this become a complete ban of technology for young people? That would be a really bad idea, because we're going to be persuading them all, whether we like it or not, to go into a new world of technology with artificial intelligence and all of the stuff that comes with it. So having technology as a balanced part of young people's lives is important. My biggest fear is, and I'm a parent, that as society, we have literally decided to get the government to do the dirty work for us. We could do more to control our children's use of these devices, and that's not something that's happening at the moment. So a ban stops those more sensible and sensitive conversations that parents should be having.
Annette, do you think that banning devices like mobile phones just actually makes it more tempting, you know, that forbidden area of life that you're not supposed to go into, then kids will want to?
No, I don't think children will. I think we have to look at the damage that is currently being done. We know there is the Safe Screens campaign, which actually 10 years ago, they did not have the research that they have today. And we know that these dopamine spikes that children have, they become quickly addicted, they have bad sleep, poorer focus, and the whole thing with putting EdTech in schools, which many schools are implementing, is very dangerous. We know that, for example, Sweden said in the mid-2010s, we're going to give iPads to everybody and we're just going to be techie. And what they found was the national scores were down. And actually now, in 2023, they've reversed that and done lots of research to say, actually, the screens are bad. They're only going to be a child once. And I think a ban is actually good because it's good for the parents to say, you know, oh, well, it's banned. Sorry, you can't have it.
Well, I have to agree with Annette there. I mean, I agree that parents need to be doing more to keep their children away from screens and from social media. But there is a lot of peer pressure, especially in secondary schools. You don't want your child to be bullied because they're the only person who doesn't have a smartphone and isn't allowed on social media. If the government intervenes here and does a blanket ban, doesn't that take the pressure away and make it easier for parents to do a good job?
But that's really irresponsible of you saying that. Peer pressure isn't generated by a tech company, it's generated by poor behaviour, and that's how that happens. And you have to be strong as a parent, right? I've got an 8-year-old who's in my, I'm in my shed, she's in the house at the moment, she's desperate to get a computer, she's desperate to get a smartphone. That is not going to happen. I work in the technology industry, I've worked in online protection for a number of years, and I know that there are definite risks to young people using smartphones. There are definite risks to young people spending too long on social media, but banning it does not solve the problem. It pushes people to other places. It pushes the bad behaviours to other places. It pushes children to use other platforms that are not included in the ban. If you look at the Australian ban, which many people are saying is hugely successful, it looks data-wise that young people are being pushed to access platforms through other means which are not monitored and not checked. So I kind of partly agree that there is definitely more as a society we should be doing, and tech companies should be doing more, but a complete ban just is not the way. And to say, oh, peer pressure is a reason why government should be banning it is patent cobblers. That's just an absolute silly argument to discuss at this time of the day. Be stronger as a parent. It's not easy, but you can do it.
Well, I don't agree with that in the sense that teachers are finding it difficult to actually teach in classrooms. And part of that, they are saying, is because children are really on screens after school. Now, you say, be strong, do this, do that. But when children are heavily addicted to screens, they have complete meltdowns. You see children arriving at school sometimes with iPads, and then their parents have to get it off them. And I think as well, if it's not a problem and it's okay, why are some schools really taking control of it? For example, Ireland has now just spent £9 million on these security pouches to lock screens away in schools, no smartphones. And if it's not a problem, other places like in London, we have the Fulham Boys School and the All Saints School in Notting Hill. They've done a complete ban on screens, and they said they have seen an improvement in behaviour. And why should an 8-year-old
What happens
have a
outside
screen?
the school? What happens outside the school gates? It's very. I don't disagree with you that a ban in schools makes a lot of sense. Not allowing children to use them. That does not ban social media. That does not ban technology. That does not stop children using them till the moment they're put in the protective pouch. It doesn't stop them using it on the bus on the way home. It doesn't stop them using it for the 12+ hours they're in their houses without teachers
But that's because parents give it to them. That's parents giving them screens and saying everybody else is on screens, so why don't you just be on screens? And that's the outcome. It's going to be very poor outcome.
Well, Annette, I think we're going to have to pause it right there, but I will interject with one quick question, OK? Will, first to you, yes or no, if you were a head teacher tomorrow, would you ban phones in schools?
I would stop them being used in class, but I'd use them in terms of technology and understanding the power and benefit you can get from it.
Annette?
I would totally ban them, and I would say, Will, let's have another debate in 10 years. You keep on with the screens, I'll keep on with the non-screens, and let's see where we're at.
And we will call it time there, I think. Thank you very much to you both.
Thank you so much. Well, still to come, Charlie Peters is in Normandy commemorating 82 years since D-Day. But first, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
If you're heading away this weekend, well, you've picked a good time as high pressure dominates much of Europe. Lots of sunshine, mostly dry as well. Across the Canary Islands, temperatures climbing towards the high 20s, a little bit fresher in Madeira. But for Portugal, much of Spain, as well as Italy, as we look towards parts of Greece and Turkey too. High pressure dominates. There's the odd shower around through Sunday across Greece in particular. But high pressure really is dominating next week to bring plenty of sunshine and temperatures in the high 20s. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Just talk us through, if you would, because it is fascinating, just the level, the intensity of the bombardment that London in particular was facing during that period of time. How long did it last for, and, you know, how intense was it?
Thank you, Mark. Hi again, Anne. Nice to see you.
Lovely to see you.
The whole point about the book, Mark, is that you mentioned London there, and of course, that's the reality of what most people think. They think London, a few months between around Christmas 1940, that was the Blitz. But that's not the story that I'm telling. I'm telling the story that, you know, GB News would tell, which is the story of the whole nation. So not London, we're talking about Coventry, people will remember that. We're talking about Glasgow, we're talking about Aberdeen, we're talking about Exeter. And I'm telling the story of the war. So yes, thousands were killed in London during those few months, dreadful months in around Christmas 1940. But 60,000 civilians perished during the whole course of the war. And again, we talk about when the Blitz started, when the Blitz ended. If you were being bombed in Glasgow, or you are being bombed in Newcastle. So that image you've got on screen now is my mum's hometown. That is the picture of an air raid shelter in my mum's hometown. And if she'd been in that shelter, I wouldn't be with you today. But I found a survivor.
Where is it?
So that is in North Shields, on the banks of the Tyne, as you come down outside Newcastle. So that image that you've got there, that kind of sparked the story that I tell of the nation in the book.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Very good morning to you. You're with Sam and Olivia. Saturday Morning Live. Today, of course, marks the 82nd anniversary of D-Day, the largest seaborne invasion in military history.
Well, thousands are gathering across Normandy to honour the Allied troops who stormed the beaches on June the 6th, 1944, turning the tide of the Second World War.
Ceremonies and tributes are taking place throughout the day today to commemorate those who fought and died for Europe's liberation.
And GB News national reporter Charlie Peters is in Normandy for us, has been for the last 2 days. Charlie, that ceremony has ended now. Can you tell us a bit about what the feeling on the ground is like today?
Well, Olivia and Sam, just after that service ended, the veterans who are present moved over to the main memorial just behind me and had their photographs taken. And there was also a moment of applause and celebration and praise for them. Shouts of thank you from the crowd, the relatives, serving soldiers and veterans all gathering to issue their thanks to those who fought on this day 82 years ago, and indeed the many months that followed. And what a lovely service it was for the moment of remembrance that it carried, but also from the voices that we heard, including the great-great-grandson of Winston Churchill, Alexander, and also the grandson of Field Marshal Montgomery, just a general at the time, but he's joined with us now. Henry Montgomery, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
This morning you walked your grandfather's footsteps along the beaches.
Well, I didn't walk my grandfather's footsteps because he wasn't here on the 6th of June. He was back in Portsmouth. But as part of the journey that I've been on for the last 2 months, I've been doing a journey which is called In Monty's Footsteps, which has been travelling around the whole country trying to capture the collective effort that went into that everybody was involved in the country in effect supporting the war, and particularly supporting the build-up of troops, munitions and supplies to enable D-Day to be a success. So I've been trying to capture that effort around the country, but I wanted to end my journey by walking along the 3 British beaches. So I started this morning at 3 o'clock in the morning on Sword Beach, and I've walked along Sword, Juno and a little bit of Gold before I came up here. So I started, it was 23 kilometres or something, and it was roughly, I like to think, it was 1 step for every name that's named on the British Normandy Memorial, 22,540 men to women who died during the Normandy campaign.
And the Normandy campaign came after the address that General Montgomery gave to the Allied forces, the words of which are above us now on this memorial.
Yeah.
What was it like standing to deliver those words?
I find them really deeply moving words, actually. They were actually a letter that was given to the troops once they embarked, as a sort of inspirational letter. But I think this idea that I'm always quite surprised about this, but he had this sort of vision that not only were we going to win, but people would continue to talk about it in the better days to come. And it was a sort of inspirational message to the troops who were about to embark on a horrendous journey across the Channel, and having to run up the beaches with in conditions that I just don't bear thinking about. So it is an inspirational message. So it was quite privileged. I've actually never read those words before, so this was the first time I'd read them. Yeah.
And obviously a horrendous morning, the 6th. the longest day, a day like no other, but it was a tactical and strategic masterclass.
Yeah.
What has it been like for you throughout your life, meeting the men and some women who followed Montgomery's orders, who followed what the general told them to do?
Well, I mean, meeting the... I've sort of come to this later in life, I suppose, but for me, it's meeting the veterans and hearing their stories has been the inspiration that has sort of galvanised me into wanting to do something that will ensure that their stories, the legacy of their sacrifices. Those sacrifices weren't just the people who died; it was the people who also survived, because they lived with, their youth was snatched from them. And they lived with memories that are really difficult to comprehend. So I think being able to remember those stories and it is really, really important. And I think and that's sort of what my journey is all about. It's been about raising money for the British Normandy Memorial Education Programme.
Henry Montgomery, thank you so much for your time this morning, and thank you for your words as well. Well, you have it. It's about thinking about those who served on that day and those who followed afterwards, and the experience of Henry Montgomery walking in his grandfather's footsteps is part of that commemorative experience we're seeing today.
Thank you so much for bringing us that wonderful interview with Henry Montgomery. And we've got lots more to come on Saturday Morning Live, including lots more of today's top stories. Plus, we'll speak to former England and Tottenham striker Clive Allen ahead of England's World Cup warm-up game tonight. Very exciting.
Can't wait. I love football. Everyone knows that. See you soon.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's still quite windy out there this afternoon and into this evening in the south, and we've all got some further rain or showers to come through the rest of today. This area of low pressure has been bringing the really strong winds across the south of the UK on Saturday, but now we turn our attention towards the north and the west, where we've got this wiggling weather front that will move in for Sunday. So another windy evening to come across the English Channel coastal regions, but the winds will slowly ease as we go into the course of tonight. The showers will also tend to become a little bit more confined to more northern and eastern parts of the UK, particularly northeast Scotland, with some heavier rain returning into Northern Ireland later in the night. But for most, it will turn a bit drier and temperatures won't fall away too far, so they'll hold up into double figures for many of us as we go into the overnight hours. Now for tomorrow, Sunday actually dawns on a fairly bright note for many eastern areas. Some early morning sunshine for eastern England, the East Midlands and East Anglia. Further west though, thicker cloud, bits and pieces of light rain or the odd shower for parts of Wales. Some drizzly outbreaks across northern England over the Pennines too, and perhaps some longer spells of heavy rain for Northern Ireland and southwest Scotland. Further north and west, well, a big mixture of cloud and showers basically for northwest Scotland. Brighter skies though, at least initially for Aberdeenshire and Moray. As we go through the course of Sunday, it turns increasingly wet for parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. The rain, a bit kind of showery in nature, will also start to come into parts of North Wales and northwest England. And here it will be quite a breezy day, so the potential for winds to get quite close to gale force in some exposed coastal regions. Higher temperatures though than on Saturday, perhaps reaching 23 or 24 in the best of any brightness in the south and the east. The rain continues to make its way erratically and quite slowly south and eastwards on Sunday evening, so turning wet for some parts of the Midlands and central parts of the UK. As we go into Sunday night, a fairly wet day to come in the south on Monday, and generally a changeable week ahead with showers or longer spells of rain.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Are you dreaming of a ton of tax-free cash this summer? We want to make that dream come true with a stunning £76,543 and 21 pence in cash to spend however you like. Put a new car on the drive or just relax in the knowledge that this year we've got your back. For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain,
with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Very good morning. It is 11 o'clock on Saturday, the 6th of June, live across the UK. This is Saturday Morning Live.
Well, today marks 82 years since D-Day, when thousands of brave Allied troops stormed the beaches of Normandy to help free Europe from Nazi tyranny. As the number of surviving veterans dwindles, GB News remembers the courage, sacrifice and legacy of a remarkable generation. Our very own Charlie Peters is in Normandy.
And we'll remember the some 160,000 Allied troops who landed on these beaches, and also the millions that followed after that, storming Normandy, capturing the rest of France, liberating Europe, and within a year, the rest of the world. 98 more names will be added to the British Normandy Memorial here. We'll be going through all the latest after a beautiful memorial service earlier this morning.
A transatlantic row is escalating after Downing Street accused the American Vice President J.D. Vance of trying to stir up division over the Henry Novak case. J.D. Vance blames mass migration, but Number 10 says outsiders should stop interfering.
And England face New Zealand tonight in a key World Cup warm-up, but there are concerns over the newly laid pitch they'll be playing on. We'll have the very latest. Biggest stories, boldest opinions and liveliest debates over the next hour. I'm Olivia Utley.
And I'm Sam Francis, and your weekend starts here.
Well, I thought that was a fascinating debate we were having just before the break about phones and whether children should be banned from using them, or whether that means that they won't ever learn how to use technology properly.
Well, I think one of the strange things, contradictions, is that we're saying this is a digital world, AI is moving in, we've got to get up to speed on things if you want to get the successful job and move forward in your career. AI, digital, that's where it's at. But on the flip side, we're saying kids don't use it. That's exactly where they should be, no?
Well, I'm very, very torn on this because I sort of agree, and I see the point of teaching children how to use computers properly, how to use AI properly, etc., etc. But I do think, as parents and adults, it's our responsibility to keep children safe from social media, which is just dangerous. There's more and more evidence.
So if you had to, I mean, you're a mum, if you had to pick an age at which you would say, OK, I'm going to give them permission to access social media, give them a mobile phone, have you got a benchmark?
Yes, my husband and I have talked about this at length. 25 is our benchmark.
Right.
Or when he's
I don't think that's going to work. I don't think that's going to work. Anyway, let us know what your benchmark would be. Where would you set that age barrier for a social media ban, if you want a ban at all? And don't forget to send your comments in gbnews.com/your say.
But before we do anything else, Aaron Armstrong has all your news headlines.
Thank you very much indeed. Good morning to you. Our headlines. Downing Street has hit out at people seeking to stir up division after JD Vance's comments on the murder of Henry Novak. The US Vice President has blamed the fatal stabbing of the 18-year-old student on the mass invasion of migrants, saying the only response was righteous anger. Sir Keir Starmer has suggested the US is trying to interfere in British democracy. The comments from JD Vance come after a week in which there has been intense scrutiny of the police response. Mr Novak was arrested and handcuffed as he lay dying, while his killer, Vikram Digwa, had stabbed him 5 times, was treated as a victim by officers. His family have repeatedly said they don't want his death to be used to fuel further division. 6 men have been charged following protests held in Southampton after Henry Novak's murder. Police say the men, aged in their 20s and 30s, were charged following violent disorder in the city on Tuesday. All 6 have been remanded in custody and are due to appear at Southampton Magistrates Court later. The fragile ceasefire between the US and Iran has been further tested after a fresh exchange of fire. The US military said it shot down 4 Iranian drones launched towards the Strait of Hormuz and struck coastal radar sites in response, releasing this footage of the strikes. Iran retaliated hours later, firing 7 ballistic missiles at American bases in Kuwait and Bahrain. Iran has warned the US that further mischief would mean the complete closure of the vital shipping passage. Some of the last surviving D-Day veterans are commemorating the 82nd anniversary of the Allied invasion of northern France in World War II. Nearly 16,000 Allied troops landed on June the 6th, 1944, to fight Nazi-occupied France. Codenamed Operation Neptune, the Allied landings remain the largest seaborne invasion in history. Well, this year's events will be the first since almost 100 more names were added to the British Normandy Memorial, which lists troops who died in the campaign. Mark Atkinson from the Royal British Legion says it's not on the scale of commemorations 2 years ago, but it's no less important.
It's a very different affair today. Fewer veterans with us. I think we've only got about 8 or 9 British veterans of the D-Day landings with us. It's really important that as a society we come together, we remember the service and the sacrifice of those incredibly brave young men all those years ago. And that's what we'll be doing today. There are events happening across Normandy, but also back in the UK, where people are commemorating the 82nd anniversary of the D-Day landings.
The Royal Navy's £3.5 billion flagship aircraft carrier has broken down again. HMS Prince of Wales, which has suffered several problems since entering service, has been forced to dock in Norway for repairs, delaying its departure for celebrations to mark the 250th anniversary of the US Declaration of Independence. Similar problems have also been reported on the HMS Queen Elizabeth. The government is expected to publish a delayed review into boosting defence spending on Thursday. 2 Russian cosmonauts on board the International Space Station have repaired one of the 2 leaks that have been causing concern. 5 astronauts were ordered to shelter in an attached spacecraft after the structure suddenly started leaking more air. Repairs have been paused. The crew have returned to the ISS, but air is still leaking at a much lower rate. And Washington's confirmed Iran's football team's been granted visas to enter the US. It comes just 10 days before the team's opening World Cup fixture against New Zealand in LA on the 15th of June. Earlier this week, the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio told Iran it would not be allowed to include individuals linked to the Islamic Revolutionary Guards. Several players in the squad have completed mandatory military service with the group. You're up to date with the headlines. More coming up at 11:30.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Thank you, Aaron, and welcome back to Saturday Morning Live with Sam Francis and me, Olivia Utley.
Well, today marks the 82nd anniversary of D-Day, the largest seaborne invasion in military history.
Yes, thousands are gathering across Normandy to honour the Allied troops who stormed the beaches on June the 6th, 1944, helping to turn the tide of the Second World War.
And commemorations, tributes, they are taking place throughout the day today to commemorate those who fought and died for Europe's liberation.
GB News' national reporter Charlie Peters is in Normandy for us, where he's been for the last couple of days. That ceremony ended about an hour ago. The beach is looking clear. Tell us about some of the people you've been speaking to.
Well, Olivia and Sam, it has been a very moving memorial service today. As you'd expect, the 82nd year, the number of veterans who are still with us shrinking every year, but no less poignant as they gather to pay respects to the men who fought alongside them 82 years ago, not just on D-Day, of course, but in the months that followed. The battle for Normandy more generally, and then across France and into the rest of Europe. And those are some of the memories that we have heard today, speaking about the 160,000 Allied troops who made those landings on that morning 82 years ago. And behind me is Gold Beach, one of the British sectors where tens of thousands of men waded into the water, walking through literally into the jaws of death as they committed that remarkably, unbelievably brave and valorous action to march forward through those beaches into the German defences. Defences that were not as prepared as they could have been due to ingenious intelligence preparation, deceiving the enemy, making them think that Hitler's Atlantic Wall could be attacked in Norway or as far down as Portugal and Spain. They did the majority of their bombing on the night before the invasion in Pas de Calais, much further north of this location, which led many of the German generals to believe that while an invasion was coming, it wouldn't be at Normandy, it wouldn't be on the beach behind me. But of course it was a strategic and tactical masterclass. It pulled off, and then it saw that success into Normandy and the rest of Europe. Well, earlier we spoke with Mark Atkinson, the Director General of the Royal British Legion, who told me about the importance of coming back here every single year. Here's what he said. Well, we'll try and get that for you later. I'm sorry that it didn't work there for you, but if I could just summarise Mark's words. He spoke to us about the importance of returning here, that even though it only happened at the 80th anniversary 2 years ago, there was a significant gathering. The King was here, the Prime Minister, so many other senior figures in public life, that actually coming back every year to remember that action is vital. And he also spoke, Olivia and Sam, about the importance of Europe and conflict more generally. Now, many of the veterans who we've spoken to the last couple of days, well over 100 years old now, they talk about how God must be looking down, regretting what we have done since, speaking about the concern that they have about the situation that we find ourselves. Ken Hayes speaking earlier saying that God must regret the fact he gave us free will because the lessons have not been learnt from the Second World War. And of course, while so many people talk about never again, there is still a war in Europe as we speak right now. And while conflict and war fighting has evolved so much since the Second World War, it almost appears now that much of the fighting we're seeing has gone back to the Second World War. Those high divisional mobility styles of fighting, even back to the First World War in Ukraine and in the east of Europe, with the trench fighting that we've seen, a return to that attritional, vicious level of fighting that the men who are here today, the handful of them, remember all too terribly. Well, let's go back to that clip of Mark Atkinson. I think we can bring that to you now. Well, we'll be lucky a third time, I'm sure, eventually. I'm very sorry about that, but we will bring you Mark Atkinson's voice. He spoke to us earlier very powerfully about the importance of commemoration, about the importance of engaging with this moment. And I just look around us quickly. You know, this is a beautiful memorial ahead of me with these beaches in the background. You can see some families taking photos here, families of veterans who fought, and all around behind us, if you just come with me now, if we just come around, there are so much more that we can show you through here, because it's not just about the names here, it's also about the families that have come back to join them. And throughout this vast memorial space, there are so many families just staring at names, paying that moment of respect. We can see the wreaths in front of me here laid, and you can see some of the cap badges. Many of them live on in the subsequent regiments that have been amalgamated. There's the Royal British Legion, we've got Freemasons here, the Cheshire Regiment, there's a parliamentary symbol as well. We've had the Yorkshire Regiment, of course, central to the storming of the Gold Beach, as it's now known. The Yorkshire Regiment was the Green Howards back then, that battalion, so many of them fighting so bravely on that day. And what's been remarkable is just seeing the families going up to the individual names on these stones and just standing silently, paying tribute to their relative, to someone they know, to someone perhaps that they didn't know, a grandfather, a great-grandfather who went before them and fought so that we could live with freedom today. That has been, for me, the most moving experience of this process. Of course, the memorial service, which happens every year, is so extraordinary, and the voices that gather here, the memories that are told, the commemoration that is given for individual memory. But it's the families that go and stand by the names, some 22,000 of them in this memorial, built in 2021. That is my lasting impression of the D-Day Memorial Service in its 82nd year.
Well, Charlie Peters, thank you very much for bringing us that report from Normandy, and we look forward to hearing from you more as the show progresses.
I think one of the things that strikes me most later today is that lots of local school children will also be attending, and I think that is one of the most important things that matters now, because it's becoming really an inherited memory. It's no longer the first perspective of the people that were there, the veterans, dwindling at this stage. So, big thing for younger generations to keep the memory going.
Well, absolutely, and as Charlie said there, with war now raging in Europe for the first time since the Second World War, and actually so much of that warfare looking so like the warfare back in the 1940s, it is more important than ever that we keep the Second World War alive to stop anything like it happening again.
Absolutely. Well, we'll move on to our other top story. On the other side of the Atlantic today, the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, has blamed Henry Novak's death on the mass invasion of migrants. He made those comments in an X post.
Well, Downing Street has since reacted, hitting out at people trying to interfere in our democracy and seeking to stir up division. We're joined now by the Deputy Political Editor of The Spectator, James Heal. James, we've heard some snide remarks from Donald Trump before about UK policy, but this is the first time we've had a very senior member of the Trump administration so boldly criticise Keir Starmer. How do you think this is going to go down with the British public? Will it warm them to Keir Starmer, or will they agree with J.D. Vance?
I suspect that there's going to be a significant divide in the British population to this. There is a natural inclination and instinct for voters to rally around their Prime Minister. Keir Starmer is not a popular Prime Minister, the most unpopular since records began, but there is that sense of defensiveness about an American Vice President coming in and criticising British people and their Prime Minister on a tragedy. I also think that some people will take against the gist of the comments J.D. Vance has made. You look at, for instance, the long-standing the long-standing Sikh population in this country, and I think that very much is different from the more recent wave of arrivals who've come here since 2020, 2021, the so-called Boris wave. That said, there will be some on the right who agree with J.D. Vance's criticism, magnifying them today, but I would also make the point, Olivia, that I think a lot of this criticism is intended for Vance's own domestic political audience, and that this is very much sort of working to feed the MAGA beast, as it were, rather than necessarily being sort of in the weeds about who or what is to blame for the tragedy over here.
Looking at the response, James, from Downing Street, they were relatively quick, actually, to respond to J.D. Vance's comments. Are they too quick to accuse opponents these days of stirring division when actually the reality is they just don't like the argument that's being made?
I think there's a degree of truth about that, Sam. Certainly when it comes to criticism here in the UK from rival political leaders such as Nigel Farage. What I would say is that what it shows is that Downing Street feel much more emboldened to hit back against the Trump administration. You've seen a sort of stiffening of their posture in recent months, the criticisms that Keir Starmer has made of the Trump administration in various arenas. And I think that they can clearly see that the mood of the public and the mood of the party has shifted on this. So they feel they've got the authority to hit back. And I think that does show that overall the Labour Party and this Labour government is very much tiring of the outpouring of emotion coming from the United States.
The polling would suggest that Keir Starmer's right to feel quite confident on this. Only 34% of people, according to a poll in the Times today, think that two-tier policing is a problem in the UK. And more people believe that Keir Starmer and Kemi Badenoch got the right tone on this story than Nigel Farage. Do you think the leader of Reform has overplayed his hand on this one?
So I think there's a division of opinion within this about Nigel Farage's stance. What I would make the point is that I think it's about a third of the public agree with Farage's stance. In a first-past-the-post system, that would be enough to get him a majority. So, frankly, I mean, Keir Starmer and Kemi Badenoch can sing from the same hymn sheet, but actually that may well serve to Farage's advantage. I think that overall most people in Reform believe that Farage's got the right stance on this, that he very much articulated the so-called, a significant slice of the silent population of this country. But overall, it depends whether it's going to be seen in the same light as the Southport thing, which is that overall it can lead to a backlash that actually serves to help Reform's cause.
James, do you think that if J.D. Vance, going back to his tweet, if he had made those comments in a slightly calmer tone, perhaps it would have been received better? Or you think actually Downing Street and others are just keen to shut this down completely?
Well, look, I think that this is part of the Trump administration's long-standing policy. You've seen senior State Department officials coming over to the UK. They very much see the battle here in terms of ideas and on things like demographics as part of their own fight. So we've had explicitly US policy since 2024 has been to very much see the battle in Europe as part of their own battle. And so I think, therefore, it's going to be a lot of natural tension between them and the UK government as well. I think that J.D. Vance very much was articulating a position which had some basis in some elements of truth, but overall, by exaggerating it in this way and talking about Sikhs in this way, I think he failed to make the distinction between the more modern cause of immigration and long-standing, relatively assimilated part of an immigrant population, i.e. the British Sikhs who've been here since the 1960s.
Well, James Heal, thank you so much for joining us today on Saturday Morning Live. I do think it's quite a perceptive comment James was making there. I mean, why has J.D. Vance chosen to intervene on this story? We have had a few cases recently of actual asylum seekers. Rhiannon White is a good one, harming or in some cases murdering British members of society. This is not that case. Vikram Digra was born and raised in the UK.
Yeah, and a Sikh, not a Muslim as well, which begs the question, what is J.D. Vance trying to achieve? And as James mentioned as well, it may be because there's an opportune moment to move politically back home in the United States rather than actually doing anything here.
Feeding the MAGA beast. Interesting way of putting it. I like that.
Well, it's going to go on and on. Judging by gbnews.com/your say, the argument is firing away.
Well, thank you very much. And still to come, Charlie Peters is live in Normandy commemorating 82 years since D-Day.
But next, government officials have allegedly deleted messages discussing the King's real views on Trump.
More on that with Jonathan Liz and Candice Holdworth. There they are. This is Saturday Morning Live on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question.
Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howard. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK. Oh, thank you.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Saturday Morning Live. It is 11:23, and to look through the top stories of today, we're delighted to be joined by political commentator Jonathan Liz and journalist Candice Holdsworth. Jonathan, should we start with you on the big story of the day? Everyone's talking about it on Your Say, gbnews.com/yoursay. US President weighing in with these...
Vice President,
weighing in with these pretty unhelpful comments as far as Keir Starmer's concerned on the murder of Henry Novak. What do you think? Is it his place?
I think it's completely despicable. I think there has to be a consistent position in British politics, firstly, that we object when a US president or vice president intervenes in our politics, whatever side of the fence they're on. People who hated Obama's intervention in the Brexit debate are now sort of cheering on JD Vance. It's outrageous. It's a race-baiting bit of complete hysteria that he's engaging in, talking about the invasion by immigrants. His own wife her parents are Indian. It's the hypocrisy is completely mind-blowing to start off with. Calling for righteous anger. I don't know what that means, righteous anger. You didn't have the entire Sikh population killing the entire white population. You had one man. It was a disgusting thing that happened, and it was a horrific response by the police. But we don't know if this is actually redolent of a bigger problem in society. That's why we need to have an investigation about it. What we know is that there were mistakes made in this specific case. But to try and draw messages about civilization as he's doing, that is so profoundly offensive. The implication being that the civilization, quote unquote, is white Christian people and sort of brown people are forces against civilization. And all of this on top of the fact that Henry's own family has specifically asked for this kind of intervention not to take place. That is what makes me so angry, that these people weighing in, thinking that they're speaking for Henry, where Henry's own family, the people who knew him best, have asked for that not to happen. They don't care about Henry. They're just trying to score points. They're trying to just kick out migrants, and actually not migrants, just brown people in general. And I think it's completely despicable.
But if he's married to a woman whose parents are immigrants from India, do you really think it's race baiting, though? He's clearly not a racist.
Well, why not?
But why would he marry? Why would he marry someone of a different?
You can have black friends and be racist.
No, but he married a woman.
Yeah, and he's talking about the mass invasion of migrants. It's complete hypocrisy. It's grifting. JD Vance doesn't believe a single thing he says. This is the guy who described Trump as America's Hitler before and was a never Trumper. And then when he realised that his career depended on buttering up Trump, he flipped sides. This is the guy who says that Trump was the anti-war candidate, and now he's sort of going out to battle for the Iran war. He believes in nothing except his own career. That's why his poll ratings have tanked, because Republicans have cottoned on to the fact this guy believes in nothing and no one except his own career.
I don't think so. I think this is a consistent thing that he said from the beginning. I think the point he tries to make is that immigration has taken place on a mass scale largely against the wishes of the people of Europe who've never voted for it, who consistently vote against it. I do think in this instance of Henry Novak, however, the person who murdered him, who's from the Sikh religion, I don't think that Sikhs are in any way problematic. They're very peaceful. They never cause any problems. And I think that as a community, they've actually really come out and tried to and condemned it. And I think that that's really, really, really admirable. But I do think there is a question to be asked, for instance, about why this man, Vikram Digger, was allowed to walk around with a huge blade, for instance, which no one else would be allowed to do.
That's not
But he was allowed to do it because of, I think, certain ideas that people from certain cultures are given more leeway.
Look, the first thing is that people commit crimes whether or not they're allowed to carry knives on them. So, you know, people...
But he wore it to work. Would anyone else be allowed to wear a huge ceremonial dagger?
I don't actually think that it was the ceremonial dagger that was used, but I think in the murder. But I think it's actually a distraction from the main point here about how we treat certain kinds of crimes. There was a British man, a white British man, who gratuitously just murdered a Saudi student. That was in the papers this week and convicted. There was no righteous anger about that, no riots about that. There was a white guy who viciously raped a Sikh woman because he thought she was Muslim. There were no riots about that either. No calls for righteous anger about that.
Isn't that a little bit disingenuous? Because what the righteous anger, I'm not saying I agree with what JD Vance said, but it was about the police response, and it was about two-tier police. Basically, it's about the response, not the murder itself.
Well, I think that, but these things merge, and I don't think Farage has actually condemned the rioting that took place in Southampton after that verdict was announced, by the way. So I think that there is a lot of two-tier. I agree. There's a lot of two-tierness in British politics, but not the kind that people like Farage would say. It's about that we treat certain criminals differently depending on the colour of their skin.
Yeah, but there has been But there is a class element, and there is something to do with the white working class, the way they are held in contempt. Look at the grooming gangs. You know, it didn't matter for how many years, how many times parents and the girls themselves tried to say something about what was happening to them. They were ignored by the state, by people in the state who didn't listen to them. And I think that people watch this video of Henry Novak and they see that he was just treated with contempt. It was clear that they just saw him as this drunk white boy who'd been racially abusing people. He wasn't viewed as fully human.
Well, first of all, I think that the grooming gangs, there's going to be an inquiry to get to the bottom of what happened, and obviously the vast majority of people who commit rapes in this country are white, and women are given a raw deal no matter who the perpetrators are.
But they
Probation rates are on the floor for rape. We'll get to. Well, obviously the inquiry will look into whether there was a racialised aspect of that.
But we know there was.
Well,
there have been numerous inquiries into it.
Well, no, I mean, we don't know for sure, and actually the evidence on that is disputed. Obviously, what happened to the grooming gangs was a terrible scandal. But also there are lots of white perpetrators, and the victims are given a raw deal then as well.
But it's the denial of it that people are afraid of seeming racist, so they don't want to tackle the problem. That's why it went on for so long. And you had Labour politicians in those areas like Anne Cryer and Sarah Champion who were denouncing it and ended up losing their jobs or being accused of being racist themselves for trying to just highlight this problem.
I think that there are lots of things going on here. One of them is the police themselves and about how the police handle sort of difficult issues. And we know that the police have had multiple failings, particularly in London. You look at what happened with Sarah Everard, for example. Notably, for example, in that case, that Nigel Farage specifically asked people not to take it out on men or the police, which is quite a sort of a different message from the one that he gave after Henry Novak's killing. And so, the police always have a lot to answer for, and I think that we should absolutely hold the police to account. Whether the police have been racist in this instance, it might well be the case, but that has to be the result of an inquiry, not a speculation.
Look, I agree that it's
Final word, Candice.
It's not always. Look, it can also affect people in those communities themselves. Look at Sarah Sharif. No one wanted to criticise her dad, and he beat his daughter to death. Look at Benaz Mahmood, who was murdered by her family. No one wanted to criticise her family. So it doesn't just affect white people, but it is this fear that people have of criticising people because of their culture or their race.
Well, Jonathan Lees and Candice Holdsworth, thank you so much for that fiery debate, and I do hope GB News viewers will continue it online, gbnews.com/yoursay.
Lots more still to come on the show today. First, though, let's get an update on all the top stories today. With the headlines, it's Aaron.
Thanks very much indeed. Good afternoon, or good morning to you. 11:32 the time. The headlines. Downing Street suggested US Vice President J.D. Vance is trying to stir up division by blaming the death of a British teenager, Henry Novak, on what he called the mass invasion of migrants. 6 more people, meanwhile, have been charged following violent disorder in Southampton on Tuesday. The US and Iran exchanged a series of strikes earlier in the latest threat to the ceasefire. Tehran fired ballistic missiles at American bases in Kuwait and Bahrain after the US attacked radar sites on Iran's southern coast. Events are taking place in Normandy today to mark the 82nd anniversary of D-Day. Serving military personnel, the grandson of British Commander Field Marshal Montgomery, and French school children marched across Juno Beach to march HR, codenamed Operation Neptune. D-Day remains the largest seaborne invasion in history. Britain's largest warship, the HMS Prince of Wales, has been forced to dock in Norway for repairs, delaying its departure for celebrations to mark the 250th anniversary of the US Declaration of Independence. The Ministry of Defence says it's because of a technical issue. And the royal family will come together later to celebrate the wedding of the Princess Royal's son, Peter Phillips, to mark his marriage to the NHS nurse Harriet Sterling. The King and Queen, the Prince and Princess of Wales, and the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh are expected to attend, but Harry and Meghan will not be there. Those are your headlines. More coming up at midday.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB Digital Radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player, and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Aaron, thank you very much. More from Aaron at midday. Still to come, though, on the programme. England are facing New Zealand tonight in the key World Cup warm-up, but there are concerns over a newly laid pitch they'll be playing on. We'll be speaking to former England and Tottenham striker Clive Allen to find out more.
But next, Charlie Peters is in Normandy, commemorating 82 years since D-Day.
Good morning and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's quite a wet and cool picture out there to begin the weekend for many of us, and quite heavy rain in places too, and also unseasonably windy, particularly in the south, on the southern side of this area of low pressure where the isobars are particularly close together. But otherwise, as we go through the course of this afternoon, it's a case of showers or longer spells of rain for many. The winds in the south, though, could cause some disruption. A yellow wind warning is in place for southwest England and along the English Channel coast. So here we could potentially see gusts of 45, even up to 55 miles per hour on the most exposed coasts. Quite a cool picture out there as well, so temperatures ranging from around 15 to 17 degrees Celsius for many, possibly 19 or 20 if we do see any sunnier breaks. Now, the strongest winds will be, as I say, on the south coast of England, and they will transfer their way eastwards as we go into the evening towards kind of Sussex and Kent. Further north, the winds will be much lighter, but we could see some heavy downpours for northern England, parts of North Wales and the North Midlands, possibly turning thundery late afternoon as well. For Scotland and Northern Ireland, it's a fairly cloudy picture for the rest of Saturday. Showers or longer spells of rain, but there'll also be some dry interludes as well. We could even see some late sunshine across parts of Northern Ireland, Devon and Cornwall and Pembrokeshire as well before the sun sets, so a much drier end to the day here. The showers and the rain will tend to ease as we go through the course of tonight, becoming more confined to northeastern parts of Scotland, with some heavier rain coming back into Northern Ireland by the end of the night. But temperatures not falling away too far, quite a mild night, generally speaking holding up into double figures. Now in the east of the UK, eastern Scotland and eastern England, it should be a bright start to the day on Sunday. Plenty of sunshine first thing, so do make the most of that. It will fade and turn hazy as we go through the course of the day. Further rain coming into Northern Ireland, particularly western Scotland into the afternoon. Here it could turn quite heavy and prolonged, as well as northwest England and North Wales. Further south and east though, a much warmer day to come.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in, the Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages. Because the news is going to happen. So get a head start today. Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Very good morning, welcome back, 11:37. Well, it's been a busy day for the King and the Queen this morning. They're celebrating the wedding of Princess Anne's eldest child, Peter Phillips, before heading to the races later.
Yes, King Charles and Queen Camilla will head to Epsom Derby to present the trophies to the winners of the world's largest flat race. Well, joining us now is GB News reporter Sophia Wensler. Sophia, I was admiring your lovely hat earlier. Yes, there it is. Very nice to see it. So we've got the King and Queen going over to Epsom later. What's it like on the ground?
Yeah, well, we have got a bit of a break in the rain now, so it's a little bit better than it was earlier. But we are, of course, here for the annual Epsom Derby, one of the biggest races in the racing world. And as ever, the fashion is playing almost as big a part as the racing itself. We've seen some fabulous outfits already here today. Everyone doing their best to look their very best, despite the somewhat unpredictable British weather. But outfits and fashion aside, all eyes will soon be turning to the race itself, and someone that can talk to us a little bit more about that is Matt Humes from Betfred. Hello Matt, thank you so much for speaking to us today. Could you tell us a little bit more about which of the runners are most likely to be first past the post?
Well, we've got a horse called Benvenuto Cellini who comes here having won his last race. He won the same race last year that last year's winner done, so it's the same trainer taking that same route. He's got 4 in the race. He's called Aidan O'Brien. He's actually looking for his 12th win in the Betfred Derby this afternoon, a 50th British Classic, so he knows exactly what it takes. He's got Ryan Moore on board. He's won 4 derbies himself as well, so Benvenuto Cellini ticks so many boxes, and he is the favourite, and he's the one that punters have all been latching onto this morning as well.
Thank you. And we have to talk about the track itself. How is the going today, and how will that affect the race horses? Yeah, well, yesterday it was
obviously a little bit on the softer side. We call a good surface. That's your kind of your level playing field. But obviously with the rain that we had all this week, we had 37 millimetres up to yesterday, and then what we've had this morning already, and we think we're going to get a bit more. So you're looking for horses who do have soft ground form. So a specific type of horse who does have soft ground form, and that brings horses like Pierre Bernard, who won on soft ground in France last year, and also James J. Braddock as well. He won on soft ground himself, and he's actually named after a heavyweight boxer from America in the 30s. That's the subject of a famous film called Cinderella Man with Russell Crowe. So film buffs or boxing buffs, they'll be all over James J. Braddock this afternoon.
Fabulous, thank you. And the King and Queen will be here today. How excited are we about that today?
Massive, and this is obviously for something like Epsom to get the King and Queen here. It's absolutely fantastic. The Queen, I think she'll never miss 4 derbies in her entire reign, so it's fantastic to get royalty here. I just hope they bring in their umbrellas.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks for speaking to us, Matt. Well, you heard it. It's going to be an absolutely fabulous day here today. We're going to be here as the atmosphere builds all day, building up to that race. You're not going to want to miss it.
Well, Sophia, thank you so much. We look forward to hearing more about that throughout the day. Fantastic report from Epsom there.
In other news today, of course, marks the 82nd anniversary of D-Day, the largest seaborne invasion in military history.
Well, thousands are gathering across Normandy to honour the Allied troops who stormed the beaches on June the 6th, 1944, helping to turn the tide of the Second World War.
Ceremonies and tributes are taking place throughout the day today to commemorate those who fought and died for Europe's liberation. And our national reporter Charlie Peters has been in Normandy for us for the last few days and today, of course. Charlie, what's going on where you are? The sun is now appearing to break through the clouds after that service this morning.
Well, Sam, you're certainly seeing a different picture to me. The heavens have just opened up here, and luckily that's not come during the beautiful memorial service that we were enjoying and taking part in earlier today. It was a service of perfect remembrance and commemoration for the thousands of Allied troops who fell not only on D-Day when they marched into the jaws of hell, but also throughout the Battle of Normandy and the liberation of Europe that followed, because this is the British Normandy Memorial about the entirety of the battle, not just the 160,000 Allied troops that landed on those 5 beaches on the 6th of June, but in fact the millions that followed to resupply, to rearm and push forward to secure the liberation of Europe and then eventually the world. Many of the soldiers who fought on the beaches here, including the Gold Beach just moments away from this memorial, were later sent forward to the Far East and to other theatres. And when we think about D-Day, we have to put it into the context of the remarkable process that the Allied militaries went through during the war, particularly for the British, who started the war with the British Expeditionary Force evacuating from Dunkirk in May-June 1940. The tragic losses of Singapore, of Crete, of the difficult campaign in North Africa, of so many tragic battles fought in Italy, in the Middle East, and also throughout Europe, of course. D-Day was the turning of the tide. As other theatres had been successful for the British, finally, in D-Day, the liberation of Normandy and France could begin. Those nations that had fallen to Nazi Germany 4 years or more earlier. Well, earlier we spoke to Mark Aldridge, the Director General of the Royal British Legion, who told us about how important it is to be here every year, not just on those major anniversaries. The question becomes, how do we keep the spirit of remembrance alive?
That's right. So I was here 2 years ago for the 80th anniversary back in 2024, and it was exactly as you described. The King was with us, the Prime Minister was with us, we had President Macron with us. It's a very different affair today. Fewer veterans with us. I think we've only got about 8 or 9 British veterans of the D-Day landings with us. It's really important that as a society we come together, we remember the service and the sacrifice of those incredibly brave young men all those years ago. And that's what we'll be doing today. There are events happening across Normandy, but also back in the UK, where people are commemorating the 82nd anniversary of the D-Day landings.
And Mark, we're just walking around the memorial this morning. You're struck, of course, by the ages, how many teenagers are here. And you also know that behind every single name is a story. And there are 98 new names and new stories that have now been added to this memorial.
That's right. So I think just yesterday we added 98 names to the British Normandy Memorial, people whose loss has only become known in recent times. So these are often people who were casualties, who were flown back to the UK and whose names were not originally inscribed on the pillars here. So it's really important that those names have been added. And as you say, behind every one of those young men is a story. And families and generations that have lived with loss for many years. And you're right, as you walk around this incredible site, it is 20-year-olds and 18-year-olds and 24-year-olds inscribed. Incredibly brave young men, you know, jumping off the boats, running up the hill here from the sea, to essentially to defeat Nazis and to help us have the freedoms that we enjoy in the UK and across Europe today.
Well, Charlie Peters there speaking to Mark Atkinson, the Director General of the Royal British Legion, giving just some of his thoughts on the scenes and commemorations today in Normandy.
And we'll be back to those commemorations throughout the day as they continue. But still to come for now, we'll be joined by former England and Spurs striker Clive Allen to discuss England's friendly tonight ahead of the World Cup starting next week.
But first, if you're in search of some holiday sun, perhaps I need to get my eyes tested. I thought it was sunny. No, it was raining in Normandy. Here's the forecast. I'll take a look too for the European destinations.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations forecast.
If you're heading away this weekend, well, you've picked a good time as high pressure dominates much of Europe. Lots of sunshine, mostly dry as well. Across the Canary Islands, temperatures climbing towards the high 20s, a little bit fresher in Madeira. But for Portugal, much of Spain, as well as Italy, as we look towards parts of Greece and Turkey too. High pressure dominates. There's the odd shower around through Sunday across Greece in particular. But high pressure really is dominating next week to bring plenty of sunshine and temperatures in the high 20s. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Now, GB News' motto could be, bring me your cancelled masses yearning to breathe free. And so I'm delighted to give him a platform on this programme. Delighted to say that Mario joins me now. Mario, I'm sorry you find yourself in this position. Shall we just recap for a moment why you believe that the Elgin marble should remain in the British Museum? You've argued that on this programme before, but it was a while ago.
Absolutely. There are two orders of reasons. One is that the Greek claim is basically bogus because it's made on the assumption that they were stolen, which is completely false and unsupported by the extant historical documentation, which is quite clear. We have the grant of permission, even in translation. We have plenty of witnesses at the time who were in Athens who saw this permission in the original and who say Lord Elgin was empowered to do whatever he did because of this permission. So this is one way. The other reason is that now they are an integral part of British culture and an integral part, a fundamental asset of the British Museum. So even if you have full sympathy for the Greek aspiration to recompose an ancient monument that has been broken, first of all, this is not possible anymore because 1/3 of the decoration is gone and they are not putting whatever is remaining back on the temple. And second of all, you cannot break another cultural asset, another cultural collection that has had such a profound impact in our cultural history, in Western civilization cultural history, and just because of a nationalistic view.
I understand.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Saturday Morning Live, and it is 10 to 12. Well, our GB News sports presenter, Aidan McGee, joins us now. World Cup coming up next week.
Yes.
First friendly tonight, England against New Zealand. Exciting?
Yeah, well, it's a warm-up, and it literally is a warm-up, Sam and Olivia, because it's going to be about 37 degrees tonight. Pretty pointless game. Yes, there has to be a warm-up, but they're playing against New Zealand, who are going to offer no discernible competition. But listen, they have to play some kind of games. I guess you have to get some minutes into the legs of the players, many of whom won't have played for a month or so since the end of the Premier League season. But here to tell us a bit more and give us a bit more insight is the former England striker, Clive Allen. Good morning to you, Clive. Great to have you with us this morning. Just tell us about England in general. Do you think, having seen the squad, they've got what it takes to go all the way?
Without a doubt. I think, Thomas Tuchel took his time in terms of picking the players that he wanted, the players that he felt would be conducive to a really good squad going into this competition. And their preparations have gone well so far. And I think that, it's all about acclimatising playing today.
You mentioned, Clive, that word acclimatising, crucial, isn't it? Because it's going to be, as I mentioned, 37 degrees tonight. I was with Sean Wright-Phillips yesterday, and he said that he played in the MLS towards the end of his career, and the heat that's going to be... the players are going to be exposed to during the World Cup is going to take a lot of them by surprise.
Yeah, and I think that they'll be eased into it, not only with their training time, but I think their playing time today will be maybe two teams for 45 minutes each. Again, everything's planned, everything's controlled, There is a little concern about the pitch. The one thing now is you don't want anybody in the squad to pick up an injury. I think we're injury-free, which is really positive going into the competition.
Well, I mentioned that as well. You mentioned injuries as well. I mean, as a striker, are you concerned if anything happens to Harry Kane? Is there the depth there to carry a cutting edge in the rest of the tournament? And you'd have to look at Ollie Watkins and say he's in decent form, right?
Absolutely. Ollie Watkins comes into the competition at the end of a really good season for Villa. He was prolific at the end. His goal ratio was really good. Ivan Toney has had a fantastic season in the Saudi Pro League. One of the top goal scorers there. So we've got players who are in goal scoring form should they be needed to replace Harry Kane. But Harry Kane is so special.
Tell me about the squad then. I mean, I know it's kind of a last week story, but we're still poring over it. A lot of us are still quite surprised. What did you make of the squad overall? I guess that whoever he left out, he's going to have to disappoint someone. That's the art of being a manager, I guess.
It is, and obviously a difficult one being the England manager with so many quality players to choose from. I think there's a really good balance to the squad. I think the characters of the players have been looked into as well. That, as we say, they to be whether they're on the front line right from the beginning. So I think Thomas Tuchel's looked into that in great depth.
Listen, Clive, thanks very much indeed for joining us. We hope to hear from you throughout the tournament, and thanks so much for all those goals for Queen's Park Rangers as well.
Thank you.
Cheers. It's Clive Allen there, hero for my club as well, and hero for England as well. And we hope there'll be a few more heroes in weeks to come.
Fingers crossed. Let's hope so.
Yeah, so who have we got to watch out for in the coming matches?
Well, I mean, I think, look, tonight you're not going to see a great deal just because there are actually some players who aren't in the squad who've been playing tonight, and people are thinking, well, why are you warming up players who aren't going to play? I guess they want to get minutes in the legs of players for future tournaments and get them experienced and exposed to what tournament football is about. Rio Ferdinand was an example of that in France '98. He just came along for the ride. He wasn't taking up a space in the squad. Everyone was happy with that. He went on to play lots of tournaments for England. So there is kind of method in what they're trying to do. But look, let's hope we have a good tournament. I want to see entertainment. That's what I want to see, even in the heat.
So do I, Aidan. Well, thank you very much for Aidan, and thank you all for joining us on Saturday Morning Live. Dawn Neeson is next.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's still quite windy out there this afternoon and into this evening in the south, and we've all got some further rain or showers to come through the rest of today. This area of low pressure has been bringing the really strong winds across the south of the UK on Saturday, but now we turn our attention towards the north and the west, where we've got this wiggling weather front that will move in for Sunday. So another windy evening to come across the English Channel coastal regions, but the winds will slowly ease as we go into the course of tonight. The showers will also tend to become a little bit more confined to more northern and eastern parts of the UK, particularly northeast Scotland, with some heavier rain returning into Northern Ireland later in the night. But for most, it will turn a bit drier, and temperatures won't fall away too far, so they'll hold up into double figures for many of us as we go into the overnight hours. Now, for tomorrow, Sunday actually dawns on a fairly bright note for many eastern areas. Some early morning sunshine for eastern England, the East Midlands and East Anglia. Further west, though, thicker cloud, bits and pieces of light rain or the odd shower for parts of Wales. Some drizzly outbreaks across northern England over the Pennines too, and perhaps some longer spells of heavy rain for Northern Ireland and southwest Scotland. Further north and west, well, a big mixture of cloud and showers basically for northwest Scotland. Brighter skies, though, at least initially for Aberdeenshire and Moray. As we go through the course of Sunday, it turns increasingly wet for parts of